today, I hope that we could go through the slides on education for refugee and asylum seeking children and youth. So, what I am going to do today is I'm going to go through few slides explaining about few things. One area is on basic education, which means that it is for preschool, primary, and secondary education. And the other one, I will go through a little bit on higher education, especially on access to higher education. But as you may have noticed in the schedule for the webinar series, there will also be another detailed one on higher education at another date. So without further ado, I will go on in terms of the introduction on access to education in Malaysia. All right, I hope you can see my second slide, but let me know if you don't. And so for refugees and asylum seekers in Malaysia, unfortunately, as you may already know, that refugees and asylum seekers in Malaysia don't have access to formal education, which means that you don't have access to public schools. Um, and so the limited option that you have is actually access through learning centers established by refugee communities, non-governmental organization, and faith-based organizations through informal channel. So meaning to say that the education that is being offered by these learning centers managed by community and civil society organizations are informal in nature. They are not formal, recognized by the government, but they are delivering education as best as they can so that children are up to par with their national peers. And so for your information, UNHCR partners with five NGOs in Malaysia to support access to education for refugees. It is true a very limited funding. I have to stress this. It is very, very limited funding support that we gave to these NGOs. It's not enough at all to cover all costs. Refugees still need to pay for school fees. And so, who are these NGOs? It's Taiwan Buddhist Tzu Chi Foundation. They have two schools. And for Dignity for Children Foundation, they have one school in Sentul. Cahaya Surya Bhakti, they are all located in Johor, in the state of Johor, in the southern part of Malaysia. They have 7 schools. Jaringan Rohingya Education Center, JREC, they have 6 schools all throughout Malaysia, Penang, Kuala Terengganu, Pahang, Selangor, and also MSRI through the Sahabat Support Center, one school in Ampang. I'm sure you have heard some of these schools. So they are UNHCR partner. They do provide education for refugee children in Malaysia. But as I would like to stress again, the we do not own this learning center. These learning centers are owned by the NGOs themselves. We do provide funding to these learning centers, but very minimal funding, and hence refugees and asylum seeker will still need to pay school fees. Okay, and next, um, let's move on to refugee learning centers in Malaysia. So there are currently 154 learning centers recognized by UNHCR. So what does this mean? The learning centers which are recognized by UNHCR basically have gone through a vetting process whereby UNHCR recognize them as learning centers which provides education to refugee students, meaning to say that they should have at least more than 50% of their enrollment which consists of refugee students. We provide protection letters to these learning centers, but unfortunately, at this moment, we don't have funding to actually provide financial assistance to these learning centers. And so, additionally, apart from the 154 learning centers in Malaysia that are recognized by UNHCR, we also know that there are 29 learning centers that provides education to refugees, but yet to reach out to UNHCR for acknowledgement. So what does this mean? It means that these learning centers, they are out there providing education to refugees in Malaysia, but they don't have UNHCR protection letter. But it does not mean that they are not a legitimate learning centers. You have to reach out to them and find out about more on their policies, and encourage them to also reach out to UNHCR for acknowledgement. And so, a note on acknowledgement: UNHCR do not have the authority to register these learning centers, but we do have an acknowledgement process where we provide protection letters, as what I have mentioned just now. And so, in terms of registration with the Malaysia government do have a registration process called the Alternative Learning Center Registration Policy. It's a policy basically on how to register refugee learning centers in Malaysia. Or in Malay, what they call it is Pusat Bimbingan Alternatif. Alternative learning centers in Malay is Pusat Bimbingan Alternatif. So when you reach out to the government, they refer refugee learning centers as PBAs, Pusat Bimbingan Alternatif. Unfortunately, because of the stringent process by the government, because learning centers who wants to register with the government need to have certain documents. For example, they have to have Malaysians on their board, and it has to be Malaysian who initiate the process for registration. So, of all the learning centers in Malaysia, refugee learning centers in Malaysia, only two of the learning centers managed to be fully registered with the government, again, due to the stringent process. All right, next. In terms of the reality in Malaysia, with lack of or no access to public examination, as you know, refugees are not able to sit as private candidate for SPM. So they don't have access to formal certification, which is recognized by the government, which is SPM, the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, at the end of high school year. This is very unfortunate. There is also lack of accredited learning centers, as I mentioned just now, partly due to the stringent alternative learning center registration criteria. It's very, very tough. You have to meet uh, really stringent criteria that is being set by the government. And so when it comes to curriculum, as we don't have access to the public examination, and looking at the academic progression of refugee students in Malaysia, this is why UNHCR promote the usage of Malaysian curriculum and syllabus at the primary level. However, in the interest of certification and academic progression, the IGCSE is being recommended to be used at secondary level. But as you know, IGCSE can be expensive, can be costly. The examination fee is quite costly, but we have many refugee students who have been able to actually go through IGCSE examination. Now, looking at the location of the learning centers across Peninsular Malaysia. So as you can see right now on your screen, this is the map of Peninsular Malaysia and the location where the learning centers are. So the gray dot that you see on your screen is basically the number of children who are in school. And the blue perimeter area there is basically students, refugee students who are actually registered with UNHCR, which is located in that state. So you can see in the map over there that the gray area is much smaller than the blue area, which means that we still have a lot of out of school children who are not in school. And you can also see the supply of, so supply meaning that the number of learning centers which are available at those states. So for example, Kedah We know that there are 6 learning centers. Pulau Pinang, there's 11 learning centers, 4 of those located on the island, on Penang Island. And then Perak, we have 3 learning centers. Selangor, majority of the learning centers in Malaysia located in Selangor, which consists of 62 learning centers. Kuala Lumpur, 55 learning centers. Negeri Sembilan, 4 learning centers, 3 located in Seremban, 1 in Bahau. Malacca, 1 learning center. Johor, 7 learning centers all across the state. There's also in Muar, Batu Pahat, Johor Bahru, Pahang, 1 learning center in Kuantan, Terengganu, 2 learning centers in Kuala Terengganu, and Kelantan, 2 learning centers. So right now, in terms of out of school children, there are still a lot of refugee students who are not in school. And so where you can get the information on the learning centers. All right, this is where I need your attention on. We have, as you may already know, the Refugee Malaysia website serves as a good reference point for refugees to get information on support. And so we do have a page on education. So this is how the education page look like. And if you want, you can scan the QR code at the left-hand side here, and then it will direct you to the website. So perhaps I'll take some time to actually share how the website actually look like by going through the website right now. Hold on, it looks like. And you can scroll down, and there is actually basic information on education over here. You can read through it. You can see information on pre-primary, early childhood education, primary elementary education, secondary, as well as higher tertiary education. So now at each one of the area, for example, pre-primary education, you will see a link at the bottom, list of learning centers. You can click on it, and then you will be directed to a page where you will get information, detailed information on the pre-primary learning centers. Okay, I have to mention one thing right now, that the information here is not up to date for 2024 enrollment details. We are still working on updating the page. However, the contact details, especially on the emails and also address, likely to remain the same. So you can go through the website and reach out to the individual learning centers to ask for enrollment. And okay, do you see my next slide right now? It's okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so this is how Malaysia. So this is the education levels in Malaysia in comparison to the international qualification. You may be used to the qualification at other areas. For example, some countries they use different kind of levels. For example, middle, secondary, middle school. You might hear international school use things like middle school, secondary schools, and whatnot. Sorry. Typical schooling age begins at, in terms of preschool, they usually have like a pre-kindergarten at 3 years old. And there's also kindergarten 1, 2, and 3, which usually at 4, 5, and 6 years old. And so at primary level, we usually have students for age of 7. So primary level is usually from the age of 7 until 12 years old. And then and then for secondary school, this is where Malaysians call it as Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, and Form 5. Those are usually between the age of 13 to 14 years old. So UNHCR keeps track of enrollment for school-going age, such as what you are seeing on your screen right now. So for age 4 to 6, This is actually at pre-primary level. So this is about 3 years of schooling age. And so we also monitors enrollment for primary level from age 7 to 12 years old. This is about 6 years of schooling age. And then at secondary level, it's usually for students age 13 until 17, which is about 5 schooling years. So in total, refugee students should have 14 years of schooling years. All right, so let's look at what's the situation right now in terms of refugee enrollment in learning centers. This is really for your information. And so at age 4 to 6 years old, which is at pre-primary level, what we're seeing is that only 20% of those children who are registered with UNHCR are actually enrolled in refugee learning centers. And then for primary level, it is only at 40% enrollment. So you can still see a lot of refugee students who are not in school. And sadly to say, in secondary level, it gone down further. We only have about 27% of those children who are actually enrolled in secondary learning centers. And so in total, there's only 31% of refugee students who are enrolled in learning centers in Malaysia. So of course, this is now not accounting the unregistered refugees who are studying at learning centers. As we all know, there are a lot of refugees who are still not registered. And according to our data, there are about 1,998 of those who are unregistered, but they are accessing these learning centers. So all in all, 2 out of 3 refugee children are not accessing any kind of education. This is actually quite alarming. So just to give you a little bit of overview in terms of comparison with local peers and also peers globally, you will see here that refugee students in Malaysia are still lagging way behind their national peers, as well as refugees globally. At the global level, for example, at pre-primary level, we have 34% enrollment of refugees. However, in Malaysia, it's only 20%. So you can see at primary and secondary level, it's also the same. We are still lagging behind our global peers. And so what I wanted to mention here is that the importance of education. Education is very, very important because it provides us a safe place for refugee children and youth to learn and connect. This is really to have that meaningful connection with peers within the normal routine of a classroom so that they are able to actually mingle around and have meaningful connection. And as you know, education strengthens community resilience and really equip students with knowledge and skills to find long-term solutions. So far, what we know is that the more educated refugee students are, the more they are able to actually earn higher income. So this is very, very important. It's important for students to actually remain in school as far as possible. And as you know, education empowers refugees by giving them skills and knowledge and to live productive, fulfilling, and independent lives. And it really helps for refugees to become self-sufficient. And so I'm sure you know all this, but what exactly parents and community role in this? What I really wanted to share with you and really plead to you is to ensure that your children and the children in your community enroll in learning center. Help them to enroll in the nearest learning center. Encourage them to enroll in the nearest learning center and speak to them. Ask them why they are not in school. Say no to child marriage. Please do not ever involve in child marriage. We know the consequences of child marriage. So please say no to child marriage. Please let your daughters and sons stay in school until they finish secondary school, and also encourage them to pursue higher education. What you can also do as community members as well as parents is actually to volunteer at learning centers. Help the learning centers to do something. For example, like either you volunteer as a part-time teacher, or as to help them manage the learning center, or to clean up at the school. I mean, anything that you can to lend a hand to the learning centers will be really, really appreciative by the learning centers management. And so what you can also do is to actually communicate with teachers and other personnel at the learning centers, and to attend learning centers events such as parent-teacher meetings, community meetings, and whatnot. And really, the least that you could do is to actually assist with academic activities at home. For example, help with homework, read with your son, daughter, your sister, your niece, nephews, and be involved in your child's education, basically. Bottom line is education really empowers children to become more aware of their rights and choices. So we need to educate these children because it will prevent them from going through child labor, sexual exploitation, child abuse, child marriage, and many, many other issues. So my plea to you in terms of preschool, primary, and secondary education is to really, really find a way to enroll in the nearest learning centers. You can get the list of the learning centers at Refugee Malaysia website. Okay, moving on. Higher education in Malaysia. So I will just give you a brief overview on higher education in Malaysia. You will get an in-depth information on higher education in Malaysia in the next, I think, in the subsequent session. So, in terms of access to higher education, as you know, in Malaysia, refugees and asylum seekers are not allowed to attend public colleges and tertiary institutions. However, there are small numbers of refugee youths who have been able to enroll in post-secondary and higher education programs at private colleges and universities. So, of course, although these private colleges and universities they charge higher fees, they sometimes offer scholarships and discounted fees for refugees out of their own kind consideration. So, for example, UNHCR has actually formed partnership with private institutions such as BEC, Brickfields Asia College, through the Make It Right movement group, to actually give discounts to refugee students. And so the reason why refugees couldn't access higher education to enroll in private institution, not just private institution, but public institution. And so, of course, refugees do not have passport, valid passport and whatnot. So how is it that refugee students can obtain student visa? So this is why it is actually impossible for refugee students to actually access higher education. But like I said, there are limited numbers of private institutions that actually accept refugees. Like I mentioned just now, one of it is actually Brickfields Asia College. And so other institutions may also consider, but you will need to try. Sometimes they will allow you, sometimes they would still rely on the student visa for you to be able to enroll. So you can try your best on that one. And so in terms of online universities, there are of course a lot more other options and very flexible with time, especially for those who are working and volunteering. But you will need to check for accreditation by different countries, because different countries actually have different kind of accreditation system. And so you will need to check whether the accreditation is actually accepted in Malaysia, or for example, for countries which you will be resettled to. So of course, the limitation is that you will need to have access to Wi-Fi and laptop for study. And so the cons really is there is lack of interaction with other students. And of course, it is less risk overall in terms of online university because you don't have to travel to your school. And so less risk in terms of being stopped by authorities and whatnot. Okay, last but not least, something that is actually that you may be interested in is actually the Coursera course for refugees. So Coursera, the company Coursera, offers free online courses for all refugees and asylum seekers in the world. So our headquarter, UNHCR headquarter, has actually formed a partnership with Coursera, and they are offering free online courses for refugees and asylum seekers. And these online courses available in subjects such as business, marketing, politics, and languages, among others. Of course, you will see a lot of courses listed on Coursera, Coursera website, and they are being provided by prestigious universities and other institutions around the world, and they can provide certification as well. But how do you enroll or find out more? You can send an email to the education unit at mlsluedu@unhcr.org. Provide us with your full name and your UNHCR ID. You will then soon receive an email invitation to enroll in Coursera. So what you need to do is send your full name and UNHCR ID to UNHCR Education Unit email, and then we will register your email on the website so that you will be able to access to the free online courses. So you will receive an automated email from Coursera to basically inviting you to enroll in Coursera. Okay, moving on, almost to the end now. In terms of frequently asked questions, now I have divided the frequently asked questions to two. One is more of FAQ for parents or students, and the other one is more for community and learning centers coordinators. And so, number one, for parents or students, some of the questions that we have been receiving through communities, to interaction at learning centers, and through the education mailbox is that they always say, I heard that learning centers receive UNHCR funding. Why do they still charge me school fees? Okay, the fact is, UNHCR provide very minimal financial support to partner learning centers. And partner learning centers, meaning the five that I have mentioned just now. And we do also provide ad hoc support to very few community learning centers through mini grants. Unfortunately, this year we don't have mini grants yet. Last year we did give to 43 learning centers, but it is actually very, very minimal mini grants that we gave to learning centers. The support is very, very minimal, not enough to cover all costs. So learning centers still need to charge fees for their sustainability. So please, I encourage you to please pay your school fees because the learning centers need the funds to survive, to continue to provide quality education to your children. Okay. Secondly, on enrollment to private school, can I enroll my child in a private school in Malaysia? This is actually a very gray area for refugees in Malaysia. You can try. What the government has told us is that refugees cannot enroll to private schools in Malaysia because of the visa requirement. But we have seen that some refugees are able to actually enroll in private school in Malaysia by providing their documentation, such as passport. So what I can say here is that you can try, but really enrollment will depend on your ability to provide proper documentation, such as passport. But what I would like to highlight is that private schools can be very costly in Malaysia, and there is no scholarship or financial assistance from UNHCR for enrollment at private education centers. Right. Thirdly, moving on, there's always these questions from refugees who have gotten admission at universities in other countries. So, for example, like this case, um, I have gotten an admission at a university in the United States. Can you assist with my resettlement to the US? Unfortunately, as much as we want to, unfortunately, we cannot. The the student will need to approach the related embassies for this purpose. UNHCR do not have the authority to provide travel documents for this purpose. So it is very unfortunate. The only thing that you can do to pursue this is really to approach the relevant authorities, for example, the related embassies, to ask for possibilities. At this stage, we don't know whether the country that will receive you would want to provide you with the travel document based on your admission to the university or not. It really depends on the receiving country. So you can try and ask the embassies, but we cannot guarantee that you can pursue your education, and and get travel document to go to the other country to pursue your education. Okay, last but not least, for parents and students, I always have these questions where people will ask me, I am studying in a learning center recognized by UNHCR, but I don't have UNHCR card. Can UNHCR expedite my registration? We are very sorry, no registration for UNHCR ID is a process. Education unit do not refer for registration from learning centers. We cannot refer for your registration based on reasons that you are student in a learning center. This is very, very unfortunate, but we cannot help you on this one. All right. For community or learning centers, so for community leaders or learning centers, um, sometimes I will get questions such as, we are concerned community group and we would like to open a new learning center. What is the process? So for your information, there is actually a set of guidelines for learning centers to fulfill before getting an attestation letter, a letter basically from UNHCR. So what you need to do is actually to read through the guideline and approach education unit to request for visitation. Now, the guideline is actually available on the Refugee Malaysia website. So you can go into the website and look and read through the guideline. Make sure you fulfill all the criteria before you approach education unit, because what we will do is that when we visit you, we will go through all the guidelines with you and ensure that you have met all the criteria to be recognized by UNHCR. Now, the other questions that I usually get is, can we request for financial assistance from UNHCR? So this is again very unfortunate. At this moment, UNHCR do not have funds available to fund learning centers. We will email all learning centers, coordinators, and head teachers when we have funding available for this purpose. And usually it is in the form of mini grant application. So as I mentioned, we will email all learning center when the opportunity is available. But at this moment, right now, we do not have funds available, although we are working towards it, but we do not have the funds available right now. So last but not least, I am teaching at a learning center recognized by UNHCR, but I don't have UNHCR card. This is the same as refugee students. Can UNHCR expedite my registration? Again, unfortunately, no, registration for UNHCR ID is as per usual process, and education unit cannot refer for registration um, just because you are teaching at a learning center. There is very, very stringent criteria to refer for registration. And being a teacher or a student does not qualify for it. You have to go through the normal process, which is going through the website and ask for an appointment to be registered with UNHCR. All right. Perhaps before I end, any questions in terms of enrolling at a learning center? I encourage you to please contact the learning centers directly to find out what their fees and policies are. And due to funding constraints, as you are being mentioned, UNHCR is not able to provide financial assistance for school fees, nor assistance directly to learning centers. So I encourage you to check out Refugee Malaysia website at refugeemalaysia.org, and you will find a link to education, and you'll be able to read through basic information on primary, secondary, pre-primary, and higher education levels. We are working to update on the website right now, so you will see updated information in the coming weeks. So I guess that's it in terms of the presentation from my side.